In one of the most complex, most volatile regions in the entire world, how can one organization even begin to navigate the intersection of faith, finance, and geopolitics? Well, today we're going to break down the Joshua Fund, an organization with a really unique mission right in a place that's so often defined by conflict. Let's dive in. We're going to start with a number, 183.8%. That is the absolutely staggering revenue growth one faith-based NGO saw in a single crisis-filled year. But the real story here isn't just about the money. It's about the very unique mission that all that money serves. So, this organization is the Joshua Fund. It was founded way back in 2006 by author Joel Rosenberg and his wife, Lynn. And they started it because they saw what they felt was a huge gap in the humanitarian world. At the very heart of what they do is this kind of counterintuitive idea they call the both-and mandate. It all comes from a theological reading of the Abrahamic Covenant, and the strategy is pretty bold: to bless Israel and, at the exact same time, provide unconditional humanitarian aid to its Arab and Muslim neighbors. I mean, in such a polarized environment, trying to serve both sides, talk about a challenge, right? Their work is really laser-focused on what they call the epicenter. And for them, that includes Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza, but it also extends out to 5 neighboring nations: Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, and Iraq. Okay, so let's circle back to that huge number we started with. Because the organization's finances, they tell a really significant story about its scale and, just as importantly, its donor base, especially when crisis hits. So check this out. In the fiscal year that ended in 2023, the Joshua Fund's total revenue was just a little over $6.5 million. A respectable number, and pretty stable compared to the years before. But then, just 1 year later, in the fiscal year right after the October 7th conflict, that number just exploded to over $18.6 million. What this shows us is a massive, and I mean massive, and immediate mobilization of their donors. They can basically triple the organization's income almost overnight when a major crisis hits the region. And here's what's really fascinating about how they handle that money. According to watchdog groups or Charity Navigator, they maintain a program expense ratio of around 81%. And let me tell you, in the nonprofit world, that is a huge deal. It means the vast majority of that cash influx went directly to programs and services on the ground, not to, administrative overhead. Okay, so we've talked about the money, but the big question is, how does this actually translate into action? What does an $18 million budget really look like in the epicenter? They've basically built their entire strategy around 4 distinct pillars. This whole framework is designed to provide both that immediate, direct relief and, at the same time, long-term support through education and local partnerships. So let's take a look at how their biggest pillar, Serve, brings this all to life. This is really their boots-on-the-ground humanitarian arm. It's the most tangible part of what they do. It's a whole network of over 21 distribution centers that are providing essentials, food, hygiene products, to thousands of families every single month right across those geopolitical divides. And get this, within that Serve pillar is this incredibly specific, high-impact initiative. They fund complex, life-saving heart surgeries for children. Because this kind of specialized care is often just not available in places like Gaza or Syria, the organization actually helps transfer kids to medical centers in Jordan or Egypt so they can get the treatment they desperately need. But as you can probably imagine, delivering this kind of impact in such a charged environment, well, it means navigating a very complex web of criticism and geopolitical risk. It is not a straightforward path at all. This is a perfect example of the kind of external skepticism the organization faces. Its focus on biblical prophecy, the study of end times events, has drawn some pretty sharp criticism from some in the secular media, who've basically framed it as sensationalism, especially during an active conflict. So how does the organization respond? Well, they push back directly. They just point right back to their both-and mandate, emphasizing that it requires them to provide aid to Palestinians and their neighbors without any political conditions attached. And that leaves us with this final thought. The Joshua Fund's mission to serve both Israel and its neighbors, it's a truly unique model for faith-based aid. But its success really hinges on its ability to operate on a geopolitical fault line, balancing a theological vision with the pragmatic and often really messy realities of humanitarian work. It's a high-stakes balancing act, right in the heart of the epicenter.